Hello there modelers, welcome back to the train room and to another video. So today is going to be a little bit of a technical episode because as you can see I've got a few components out. I'll start with the biggest first. So off camera I have made the scale scenes control panel. So this is just a laser cut MDF kit for a control panel, and then as you can see at the back it has room for lots of wires and things, and the reason it has lots of room for wires is because I have bought a whole bunch of these. So these are Gauge Master seep point motors and they will be powering the points. I have 4 of those, and then to change them I have bought this. Now you can see it's in pieces at the moment, but this is what they call a CDU, which is a capacitor discharge unit. So basically what this does is it stores up power, and then when you flick a switch it will change the points and shoot a load of power through them in order to make the point motors work. So that's another thing that we've got. Now this is actually something that I've had for a while, but I've been sort of unsure about using. So this is what they call a PWM, which is a pulse width modulator. So I've seen these basically being used as train controllers, and I've seen mixed reviews on these. So basically some people say that they don't really work well with coreless motors, other people say that they do, but they have to be a certain frequency. This one is a PWM that was recommended by Budget Model Railways, and they have a lot of different Kato stock, both American and Japanese, both premium and starter, and they don't seem to have any issues with them. They use these PWMs in all of their homemade controllers and they seem to work great. So I'm going to take a chance on this, I think, and try and use this. As you can, if you remember from previous videos, I am currently using these 2 controllers. It's just a Gauge Master Combi and a Hornby train set controller. The main one that I'm probably going to replace is this one, because although it's actually a pretty good controller, it does cause the motors of the EMU's locomotives to make a really weird buzzing sound, and that's been consistent both in double O and in N gauge, so I'm just kind of not entirely sure about it. So I'm going to probably end up replacing that with the PWM. We'll see how it goes, but if not, there is always scope to replace it with a Gauge Master Combi double set, so that remains to be seen. But at the moment I'm going to keep using this. This has an accessory port at the back, so that's what will be powering the CDU for now anyway. So without further ado, I am going to get started. Just a little progress update. I've been working on the capacitor discharge unit, and I've got to say it's going together pretty easily. I previously watched a tutorial on how to do this, but it's pretty self-explanatory. All the parts are sort of labelled up on here, so it's really not that difficult to do. I've got some extra bits and pieces just lying over here, but I'm quite pleased with how my soldering is going. Getting a lot of good contact, so yeah, it's going pretty well. I would show you guys in real time, but I just need to focus and get this done because I'm not the best solderer. But as I say, yeah, it's going pretty well and I can't complain. Okay everyone, so as far as I'm aware, this is all done. It really didn't take very long. As I said, most of the sections are labelled, and I watched a video on how to do it beforehand, and my soldering actually isn't that bad, as you can tell. I've never really soldered much before, but I've done a little bit for this layout, so yeah, I'm really happy with this. Hopefully it works. I'm gonna have to test it out tomorrow. Unfortunately, I had a lapse and I didn't order any switches, so the only thing I can really test is whether the thing is going to get power and it's going to store it, and whether the LED is going to turn on. I'll order some switches and then I'll be able to test it fully. But for now, I'm going to test it. I'm going to test it before I start snipping bits and pieces off. I'll make sure that none of these legs are touching, but I don't want to snip anything off unless I'm sure that it's working. So for now, that is it, and we'll go for the next clip. So we're on the next day now, and basically I've been wiring up the point motors themselves. It turns out I do have some switches, but they're the wrong ones. They are the push to make move, I think they're called, the gauge master. But basically it turns out that I would need 2 of them to operate 1 point motor, which is not ideal. So I'll have to get some more. But what I've done so far is I've wired up the points in parallel, I believe. So what I've done is I've wired point A to point A on the second point motor and point B to point B. And then I've also wired up point C, which is where the power will go, to each other. And then what I'll do is I'll put the power on this one as well, leading from the capacitor discharge unit, which will hopefully make them both trigger at the same time. They'll be actually placed in opposite direction to each other, so when you throw the switch, they'll throw the points in opposite directions and open up the correct passing loop. So I'm going to do the same for the next pair, and then after that I will mount them to the bottom of the baseboard and connect everything up with the capacitor discharge unit, and then we'll see where we get to from there. Right, so we have the second pair now all wired up and ready to go on the layout. For some reason this one was a bit more tricky. I think my soldering iron is rubbish. But yeah, it's been good, and I have been thinking kind of through this process, maybe I should have just gone with Kato track, because all the time I've been doing this, I probably could have been running trains and, you know, just using the built-in switches that come with Kato. But to be fair, this has been pretty good, has been pretty fun, so I can't complain too much, and I'm looking forward to installing these on the layout now. Hello everyone, so it's actually been about 3 or 4 weeks now since the last clip, and a lot has changed. The reason it's been so long is because I've actually been away on holiday a couple times, and also it's been unbelievably hot in the UK, talking like 30 degrees plus, so the train room, being a glorified shed, has been very, very hot and actually unbearable to be in, because it's significantly hotter in here than it is outside as well. So it was probably pushing about 40 degrees in here at some points, no joke. But anyway, so I stumbled across a problem, is that my initial plan was to simply install the point motors underneath the board and push them up and just drill them into place and everything would be fine. That has not happened. It's unbelievably difficult to drill upside down without any assistance, because the board keeps on pushing up. Now, so I now understand why most sensible people do this immediately after the track is laid and before any ballast goes down. So that's my fault, 100%. Silly idea. I just got impatient because I was waiting around for point motors and stuff to arrive, and I just cracked on. So that's 100% my fault. However, I've come up with a new plan. So my new plan is to basically fix down the ballast everywhere else, apart from the points, and then basically flip the layout on its side once it's dried to actually fit the point motors with the ballast in place, and then I'll go through and I'll ballast the points afterwards. So in doing the ballast, I also need to install the overhead wires. That's because I want to cover up the little feet with ballast, and I obviously can't do that when the ballast is fixed in place. So what I've done is I've gone through with some Gorilla Glue and I have fixed down all of the overhead wires. Apart from over here, which, as if you remember from my very first videos, I actually had a tunnel here, and I actually want to do that again. So just to add some variety to the layout, I want to add a tunnel there, so I haven't put any there. And then either mouth of the station, actually didn't think I would need a 4-road overhead wire catenary section, but I have tried like a mixture of the double and single overhead poles, and it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. So we're gonna go with a quad overhead mast there, and just over here as well. Not very expensive, not very difficult to do. So that's absolutely fine in that regard. And so yeah, I'm just gonna keep cracking on. Hey everyone, so we're in the train room at about 10 o'clock at night, and as you can see, the ballast is quite wet. That's because I've gone around with the PVA solution and dribbled it everywhere where the ballast needs to be fixed down. I've done everywhere apart from the station section itself because I wanted to do the quadruple mast, if you remember from the last clip, before that happened. So I just decided to do everywhere else first. I actually do have the quadruple mast already, so I'll put that in a bit, and I think that will probably do it for the end of the video once I've actually put down the ballast, secured the ballast here. I've started sort of placing buildings down. So those are the Tomy Tech townhouses. I've built them up. They're pretty cool actually. So if I grab one, they're pretty cool. So they've got these balcony sections. I need to glue those down, and they even have like, I don't even think you can see them, but they have like a pathway in there, and then you've got like the little garage, and it has a door at the back of it, and they look really good actually. I think I would like to potentially get some like 3D printed aircon units and maybe satellite dishes and stuff. I've seen a couple on eBay, so that would be pretty cool and interesting, and really set them off, I think. But yeah, I've ordered a couple of buildings for my birthday, so they've actually arrived, but I'll go over those in a separate video for you. And I actually got another train as well, and yeah, I'm really excited to get that running. But of course, we've got to finish the ballast first before we start running any other trains and clean the track. So I'm going to leave this for about 24 hours, so we'll come back, you know, tomorrow evening, and we'll see how we've gotten on. Most of the ballast has stayed in place, so what I did was I sprayed it with some water to break the surface tension, and then I literally just dribbled it on with from a plastic cup. As you can see, there are a couple of gaps here and there, but compared to my first attempt on that layout, this is actually really good, and any little gaps can just be patched up afterwards with a paintbrush and some ballast. So looking good so far, and I think I'm going to sign off for the night. So I will see you guys tomorrow night. Welcome back, folks. It is the next day, and it's 9 p.m. and it is a toasty 32 degrees in the train room. So that means the ballast has absolutely had no problem drying at all. And so it is rock solid. I really drenched it with the PVA. So for the most part, it is absolutely solid. As I say, there are a couple of bits that potentially need to be touched up, you know, here and there, just there, but nothing a paintbrush with some PVA glue and a bit of ballast can't fix. There's a weird bit over here that I missed, which is completely dry, but you can kind of tell which bits are loose because the ballast is a different colour. So this bit as well on the edge is a bit loose there. So well, the goal is tonight is to stick down the quadruple masts, catenary poles, and then to actually finish the ballast in the station area as well. So I'll just do this bit when doing that. So, so far so good. I really can't complain. I'm really happy. So I'm going to carry on with that. I'm going to put together the quadruple catenary mast, and then I'll show you what it's like on the layout. Okay, everyone, I think I'm going to call it a night here. I did the quadruple mast, but unfortunately they fell over. But let me just pop that down here for you. There you go. So you can kind of see what we're going for. It looks really, really good. And the same on this side. This one has the counterweights, which is awesome. And it basically has the mast on the entrance to the station. And I did try and glue them down, but I kept on knocking them over during the gluing process of the ballast. So I'm just going to leave it for now, and I'll glue them down later on. I won't be able to come in tomorrow because I've got to work away. But I'm sure I'll get down to it on the weekend and things like that. I will probably finish this video off by just running some trains, and yeah, so you guys can see what the layout looks like now that it's pretty much fully ballasted, apart from these points. In the next video, what I'll do is I will do a haul of the stuff that I bought for my birthday, and I will hopefully finish off the point motors in the next episode, actually mount them to the board and have the switches working, because I actually did get the switches now, the right ones that I needed. So I'm super excited to install those and get those working, because that, for all intents and purposes, the layout is up and running. I don't need to do any further work on the tracks and things like that. So that will be a great milestone to sort of tick off, and I'm really excited to do that. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much. We've nearly hit 160 subscribers. The last video on the Kato station did amazingly well, and I really appreciate all of your guys' support. And stick around and we'll see the rest of the layout build as it progresses. Alright, thanks guys, see you later.